The station of the stars.
Yo, what's going on? It's Jack Joe.
Hi, I'm Ariana Grande.
Hey, this is Lady Gaga.
Hi, this is Mark Ronson.
Hey guys, it's Bruno Mars.
The station of the stars.
Hey, I'm Emily.
Hi, this is Calvin Harris.
Hey, this is Rihanna. Only on my station.
RTI.
The station of the stars.
We love the music.
It's a great station.
I love it. All the great music. That's what makes it so awesome.
RTI.
All the great music. I never have to change the channel.
That's us, because we are.
The station of the stars. RTI.
And welcome to Postcard from Poprad on the 14th of August, 2020. Took Radio Caroline about 3 years ago before they got on to 648 AM. I know I used it years before them. And took to 1973 for ILR to start. You're absolutely right, Mr. Gilligan. Absolutely right. Thank you so much to so many who've been tuned in for the last 2 hours with our little special. And we've got a two-part postcard from Poprad today. First bit being a bit anarchy, and I've got special guests as well. And I also would like to say thank you and brilliance to young Dave for his docu-thingy connected to the 14th of August last night. I know I nearly said 1967 instead of 2020. Don't start on me. Hello to Banda and to John and Nasir. So many of you up there. David Copes, there as always. Bless you, David. Thank you for the likes. Really cool. Hi to Steve. Has already joined us as well. We've been listening for hours on end. And that's us. We are we're RTI, really, Radio Touch International. But, do you know, my friend Jan Talensky calls us Rebels Transmitting Internationally. Something in that. Hello, Rach.
Hello, Uncle Eric.
How the devil are you, dear?
Well, you know, subject to decay and entropy, just as everybody is. But I'm actually really well. I'm, living life in Victoria with absolutely no freedom, and but that's fine. We do what we got to do.
Right, indeed. Henry, you there?
Yes, I am here in Sydney. Wet and windy again, and I'm allowed to go out, unlike Rach. So she should be jealous of that.
I am.
Hello, Dave.
Hello, happy tattoo removal day.
Oh, what?
God.
What?
Where do you find this stuff, Dave?
Just a mine of useless information. You should know this by now. It's also Social Security Day and Creamsicle Day. And if you were wondering what a creamsicle is, it's a vanilla ice cream on a stick with an iced orange juice coating.
Oh, lovely.
It's also my sister's birthday. Hi, Kiri. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday to you. And also on the line...
don't sing.
Oh, sorry, okay.
He's not there.
Tim's waving from Australia, and that is Tim of Unique Radio, 3210 kilohertz on the shortwave band, where you can... Well, hello, everybody listening down there in Australia. Nice to have you with us. Fantastic. I hope we don't fade too much. And with no further ado... No, hang on, I've got to wait a minute. Steve says, I haven't started on you yet. If I had, then I would have called you Harold. Don't you start on me. That Harold Wilson person, that nasty, horrible little man, who in 1967 banned the offshore radio stations. Oh, nasty piece of work. And our special guest for the first half of the show today is none other than the reprobate of Birmingham, Keith Lewis.
Who will join us once he's sorted his audio issues out.
He's having some technical difficulties, but he will be here.
Is he really?
Yes.
Yeah, he's got lots of...
You'll know when he joins us.
Stuff.
It'll go clunk. It'll go clunk and he will be here.
Possibly.
Is that what you say? It was perfect yesterday. I was talking to him on it.
Yeah, it was quite buzzy and staticky, and we couldn't actually hear him over the static. So we asked him to try again, sir.
Right. I shouldn't let him touch...
But he'll be back. In the meantime, do you want to just fill?
Well, no, because the trouble is it's my fault that it doesn't work.
Oh.
Because I told him how to adjust things on his Skype, and I should never have done that.
Oh. Wow.
Never, ever, ever. I've got to say also a million thanks to all the nice messages we've had from folks around the planet, including Phil. Thanks, Phil, who said, do you know what? I've heard this all before, but I really love listening to it again on the radio. It's kind of different, and it's a bit like Dave's show last night. You know, I know the stories, and I've kind of heard them before, but when they're coming out of your radio and you're sitting there listening, it's special, it's different, and it's kind of, I can't kind of put it into words, but it's just, if it's an MP3 that you're playing in the car, you know it, but when it's on the radio in your car, it just makes it different. Do you know what I mean, Dave?
Yes, I think I know what you mean. It's that familiarity thing. It's a bit like watching repeats of classic TV shows.
Yes.
Gives you that warm, fuzzy feeling.
Can I just do an analogy on this? There's something that's always fascinated me as a broadcaster is that...
is that
I think
Keith?
someone's trying to get in.
I think
What's
the
always
eagle has landed.
fascinated me as a broadcaster is...
That sounds like a Keith.
This is not going to happen.
Hello?
Keith, you're there.
Can you...
Well, kind of. We'll have to keep you very short because it's not very good today. What have you done?
I've had no idea. Absolutely no idea. It worked perfect yesterday. I haven't touched a thing.
Yeah, right. Why don't I believe you? Yes, officer, I didn't have a drink last night. Absolutely not.
Well, I might have touched one thing, but never mind. Let's not go there.
We'll blast straight in. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this is none other than Keith Lewis, that's worked on several offshore stations and other unlicensed operative thingies, including the... do I have any recordings of Henry from Radio Nova? Yeah, probably. But that's another story. We'll do that later. We've got Keith working at the minute, so we'll talk to him. Voice of Peace down off of the coast of Israel. Legendary Radio Caroline, of course. And yesterday he said to me, he said, do you know what? Sometimes I wish I'd never got into radio. I'd have made some money. But then I thought about this last night, Keith. We're a bit the same, but we would never have had the wonderful adventures that you can never buy if we hadn't done what we've done. Do you follow that?
No, money just can't buy those memories there. Oh, by the way, good afternoon, all.
Yes.
Good afternoon, Rachel.
Good afternoon, Keith.
We've never met, but I've heard you many times. So I'm sorry, darling, I can't hear you.
Oh, we have met on Facebook, but we haven't met in the flesh, and that is my loss.
We have, and it's a pleasure to be on here today. It really is. It's lovely to be here. It's took me 20 years, by the way. 20 years to get on this show. Now, could you send her some reference if you want? Sort of sums up my whole career.
So, come on.
Made. Arrived.
I mean, we talk regularly on a Monday, Dave and I, about some of the silly things that we've done. And you know what, Keith? We are richer because of these things, even though they don't make they don't make us any money. Yes. But you know, you must have had some amazing things that happened. Not necessarily radio stories, but because of the radio. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's always had a domino effect, and one thing goes on to another, and you meet different people along the way, and they enrich this, and you just bounce off one another. It's a very, very small, tight-knit community. There's very few of us left. It's diminishing. Sadly to say, but it's diminishing every year. It gets less and less. And
yeah, Keith, you just reminded me.
To yourself, and you think to yourself,
"Yeah,
wow, I'm one of that few." And it's quite remarkable because you could have worked for 1,000 radio stations, but in my opinion, I think I've worked for 3 of the most important on the planet. That was the Voice of Peace, obviously, because, for what it stood for, and the fact that it was a platform for lots of us little speckly-faced, spotty-faced kids trying to get into radio. So it was great from that. Then, of course, the legend, Caroline, of course. And then I think the main highlights of my career was working for Chris Carey on Radio Nova, the satellite version, I hasten to add. I was never involved with the Dublin version, as Henry can also qualify. But to work for that guy, to me, the man was a legend. He'll always be a legend. And to work for him, well, to me, that was the pinnacle.
But you know what, Keith? The thing about Chris Carey is that he was tough love, because if you weren't professional, you got fired. He fired DJs in Dublin on the Dublin version of Radio Nova all the time. But the thing is, he got the best professionals in, and that's a bit weird for me to say that because I happen to be on the station, but he really didn't take any prisoners. And the thing about him that was so interesting to me, even as a 22-year-old, was that he was both a technician and a broadcaster. So he was in the arts, but he was on the technical side at the same time. Very few people use both sides of their brains, if you know what I'm saying.
Absolutely. And a lot of people, sort of had a bad deal out of Chris. I've got to be perfectly honest with you. I've never had a run-in with the guy once. It's quite remarkable. But, No, it's quite remarkable because I've seen so many guys come and go over the course of the satellite Nova back in the day. And to be perfectly honest, I never unpacked a case. I left my case packed, and I lived out of the case, even though I had wardrobes. I could have put the stuff in. I thought, no, what's the point of getting too comfortable? I'm not going to be here next week. I was there from practically day one to the day it finished, and it's quite remarkable, really, because I got on really well with the guy, I really did.
Yeah, but Keith, you do know you have a tenuous link with the FM station in Ireland, don't you?
Really? Please fill me in. It's a new one to me.
You worked in Studio 1, which is all cart-based and all the rest of it. But the other studio, the little box room thing, the mixer that was in there, the Pi Valve mixer, that was Radio Nova's mixer.
The whole lot was the whole Dublin was shipped over to Camberley, and we used all their gear. It was just a complete transportation of the Dublin studios.
Yeah.
It was, plain and simple. We even had the same, we used the same music basically as they used.
Yeah, it was
everything.
It was everything. It was quite surreal to actually sit in there. But Keith, sorry to be negative at this moment, but you were saying about people who started with offshore, and there's not many people left, and I have to sadly report that the wife of the late Stuart Henry, Ollie Henry, she's passed away this morning. And Ollie, wherever you are now, I hope you're with Stuart, and I hope you're having a great time, looking down on us lot of idiots and going, nah. I played on the big one anyway. So Ollie, love. I'm so sorry for. Yeah, Ollie, love you loads. You're a wonderful lady, and I'm so proud that CLT actually gave her a job after Luxembourg as a researcher, just to keep things going. Keith, I have a question for you from Steve. Were there many technical cock-ups when you were on air?
Yeah, hundreds. For the microphones. I'm known for cock-ups. That's why I can't believe I lasted so long.
Go on, go for one of them, Keith. Come on, dish the dirt.
Where do you want me to start? How long we got?
No, just pick one just for the crack.
I think probably the biggest and the most offensive towards Chris Carey would be not rewinding carts.
The amount of hated that.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, it would fire you on the spot if you didn't rewind a cart. That's a fact.
Yeah, but Keith, hold on. Whoa, Keith, you need to explain that to people because most people won't know what the hell you're talking about.
Of course, yeah. So a cart is. Do you remember 8-tracks back in the day, back in the 70s? Now you're going to tell me, Eric, that there's going to be people in their 20s listening that are not going to remember 8-track cartridges from the 70s.
Yeah.
But it's probably
I don't.
way to explain. Very similar to an 8-track cartridge used to play in the car back in the 70s and mid-80s. Well, they used to contain all the jingles and all the commercials and promos, drop-ins, whatever.
And music as well.
And also, in Nova's case, a lot of the music was on cards as well. And you put these in a machine, fire them off, and at the end, when they've played, you've got to re-cue the cards back up again. And of course, a lot of the DJs are coming. If you've got multiple cards to play, they play a card, and then they pull it out and put another one in, bang, 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 and they forget to rewind them. And that was an instantly dismissible offence.
The thing, Keith, is that you had to wait for the card to finish. And Chris Carey very rarely went on Radio Nova in Dublin, but one night he did, and he did the top 40. And he said, and I quote, "I'm going to murder the guy who didn't wait for this card to do its recycle." And he said he won't be working for me anymore. He'll be working on Sunshine. Now, Sunshine, of course, he worked with Robbie Dale or Robbie Robinson and left, and that's a long story. But he came back, and Sunshine was, not getting any of the audience that Nova was. And for him to actually acknowledge the competition was amazing for me, but not in a way. He said, "This guy is going back to Sunshine. That's it."
Sounds like Chris. but
Sunshine being the number one rival to Radio Nova at the time, and of course Chris and Robbie used to be good friends until the breakup and the start of Nova, and then they became, of course, arch rivals. But
Nova completely throttled Sunshine in the end, let's face it.
Yes, it did. Absolutely.
Yeah, but Keith,
there'll never be another Nova. Never.
No. But Keith, I've got to say, it's painting Chris as a bit of a hard-nosed sod, which he was. But on the other side of the fence...
Chris was very fair.
Yeah, he was very generous as well.
He was extremely generous. I mean, he took us all out for a meal one night, and I glanced at the bill, and the bill was over £1,300, believe me, and there was only 5 of us.
I remember. Actually,
what did you eat? What were you eating? Were you eating gold-plated lobster or something?
We were eating Japanese. We were at this really fancy Japanese restaurant in the centre of Birmingham. Back in the Buzz FM days, because I worked for Chris twice. I was also employed by Chris 3 years later when he took over Buzz FM, which was one of the local radio stations here in Birmingham. Our paths crossed quite often. I first met the guy, actually. I mean, this is quite an amusing story. Remember those jingle singles that came out in the 70s, the R&I jingles, and I think on the other side it was the Caroline jingles, one or the other. 15 Clifton Gardens was the address on the label. I don't know if anybody remembers that. It was a white label with 15 Clifton Gardens on it, R&I. Anyway, I saw this advert in the Record Mirror at the time for these records, and you could obtain one of these records at a Birmingham address. So I thought, oh, that's interesting. So I thought, what I'll do, I'll catch a bus over to this address, which was on the Yardley Road in Birmingham, and I'll just go and buy this record in person. I'll knock on the door and say, I've come to buy a record, can I buy one? Pay me money, and away I go. So cool, I arrived at this address and knocked on the door, and there was no answer. So I come back down the path, and as I was coming down the path, there was this old lady coming the other way. She was coming towards me, and she asked what I was doing, and I said I was trying to buy a record from an address I've been given here. And she said, you mean Spangles? So I said, Spangles? Yeah, he calls himself Spangles. He's gone out. He'll be back in a bit. So I hung around, and lo and behold, a little green minivan pulled round the corner about 5 minutes later, and out got Chris Carey and Spangles Muldoon, as he was known back then, got out the car and proceeded to start walking up the garden path. So I sort of followed him and said, hello? And he said, yeah, what do you want? I said, I've come to buy a record. So he said, I'm coming in. So he opened the door and in we go. And I always remember, a great memory, there was in the hallway of the house there was this great big stack of Coca-Cola. There was about 5 or 6 crates full of Coca-Cola. And apparently, he said he was living on this at the time. And he said, "Do you want a bottle?" So he gave me a bottle of Coke, and we had a little chat. And he told me, well, he actually gave me the record. He said, "I'll give you a copy of this," he said, "for your trouble, for coming over." And gave me the record. We sort of said our goodbyes, and off I went. I never thought any more. Well, it was great at the time, but I never really thought any more about it until I actually met him when I went to Nova several years later, and I actually brought this up in conversation with him while we talked the first time I met him on an official basis. And I said, "Do you remember where?" I said, I'll tell you where I first met you. And he remembered exactly. And he remembered giving me a bottle of Coke, which I thought was absolutely amazing. End of. Story. Boring, but...
Well, Keith, you've done it again. Oh, this is going to be hard for me to say. Schnecker. Sandra Schnecker, obviously German, says, "Hello. Much love to you, Keith."
Hello, Sandra.
There you go.
Say again, mate.
Another one here is... I didn't
Very bad line here, by the way. I can hardly hear you.
Well, that's... Yeah, all right. I didn't realise Spangles...
Quite well.
I didn't realise Spangles was a real person. I thought people were making things up when I heard the name, but it's not. It was a real name, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
Spangles, of course.
Spangles Muldoon. Spangles Muldoon.
Yeah.
It wasn't 1960s.
Go on, Henry, go.
It was Spangles.
I was going to say.
On RNI. I think it was Spangles on RNI, wasn't it?
Yes.
It was Radio Caroline. Spangles Muldoon. It's the 1960s, for goodness sake. Of course, they'd have names like Spangles Muldoon. I loved it.
Yeah, but if you remember what Mike's name was on Caroline, Keith, he was called Coconut.
Absolutely.
Yeah, really
absolutely.
Bonkers stuff.
Good afternoon, Mike, if you're listening, by the way.
Yeah, he probably is now.
Down there in Wales.
And looking at our numbers, I wouldn't be at all surprised. Keith, we're going to have to leave it. We're going to have to leave it with you there because it is a bit of a struggle, and you're struggling as well.
Yes.
And we'll try and hook it up another time.
All my life, mate.
Yeah, right. We'll send you some kit over. But you haven't had a word with Dave yet, and I think you should have a quick word with Dave.
Hello,
yes.
Keith.
Hello, David.
How are you?
How are you? Yeah, long time no here. It's got to be 20 years, mate.
Oh, God, yes. That's a bit scary.
Yeah, I think the last time we met was in the CMR studios. How long's that been?
That was in the 90s. Don't mention it.
That was in the 90s. It's got to be 23 years ago. Anyway, it's great to hear from you, mate, really. I do listen to you occasionally, by the way, when I've got 5 minutes. But, I'm so busy... Doing things around the house at the moment, which, the lockdown thing, which I'll be glad when it's all over so I can get back to normal.
I know the feeling.
He's not very shameless, is he, Dave?
No, not really.
No, I think you ought to be shameless, Keith.
Yes, my wife says that.
Yeah, right. You can always hear Keith on a Sunday night, Monday morning, on the night train with the type of programme that only Keith can do. It's
He doesn't want to go anywhere near it.
I mean, radio people will understand that there's a thing called the Jack format, which is pretty rubbish. But then there's the Keith format. And the Keith format surprises you every time you listen. It's as simple as that. Because you never know what you're going to get. You
don't. And that's the way I intend to keep it that way. And I don't talk on it as well, which is a good thing as well. You sort of get a nice little vibe going through the night. You must have a listen. You need sort of a housey, chill out, vibey type music. Give us a listen. You might enjoy it. You never know. If you've never heard it before, have a listen. Don't condemn it.
Yeah, exactly. All right, mate, listen. We're going to have to let you...
Say, the best part about it is I don't talk. It's a non-stop music. It's not jukebox. It's all done relatively live. Everything's chosen and It's all done live, so there's no jukeboxy effects. It's great. I love it. It's a great little show.
So do we, mate.
That's my shameless plug done.
Well done. Well, we love it as well, mate. Thanks ever so much for joining us, and we'll get you sorted out for a proper one.
My pleasure. It's lovely being on, mate.
All right, see you. Take care, Keith.
Take care, Dave.
Bye, Keith.
Talk to you, Henry.
Bye.
Yeah. Take care, Dave. Cheers. Take care, Rachel. And see you, Henry. Take care. All the best.
All right.
Take
care. Cheers, mate.
Bye now.
Right, somebody can click the button for me. That'll work well. I think Keith... Has Keith gone? I don't know.
No.
I don't know.
I don't know either. It doesn't matter. Well, somebody
has now.
Somebody was asking where Henry, Rach, and Dave were. Well, they're all here as usual, but we couldn't miss the opportunity on the 14th of August to have a chat with our old mate Keith Lewis. It's just one of those things. Yeah, you're quite right, Tim. What a lovely man Keith is. He is a really genuine fella. And he would just help anybody out. It's just fantastic. And like Keith, Dave and I especially been on so many radio adventures that we couldn't buy. And those things that we've done are absolutely priceless. You just can't imagine how priceless they are, but it's just wonderful to do that. And I am going to play this. I know it's very, very Anaraki, and I apologise, everybody, but I think this needs to be played now because Rachel's about to get her long-suffering mother on the line, and so we can hook this all together. This is a piece or a recording from a station in New Zealand, which is not that far away from Rach and Janet. And this is one of the trials and tribulations that happens when you're on a radio ship. It's horrendous. And I have to put the prefix to it. Anybody listening at the moment, please don't phone the authorities. This is a recording from decades ago.
Bearing is 160 degrees. 160 degrees is our compass bearing. Yes, sir. That compass bearing is from the Watchman light. As I said before, we're off the rocks. We're showing no lights, and our engine is failing. Our engine is failing. Oh, God, I don't think it's on. No, the engine has stopped. The engine has stopped now. Yes, we've lost our engine. We're going back into the rocks again. This is as urgent a mayday call as the one previously. We're going back into the rocks, and the engine has failed. We cannot try to hunt for any bright lights. All the deck lights are out, the engine room lights are out, and all that's the after deck and foredeck lights have all gone. This is the MV Terry. We're on the rocks on the Wangapara side of Great Barrier Island. We're endeavouring to anchor on the rocks, and we're going to send up a flare. Anyone observes this flare, or anyone who knows anyone who is in the area, would they please advise them? Would anyone also listening please advise Auckland Radio at Music Point by telephone of our place and tell them that we are receiving on radio telephone frequency 2182 but are unable to transmit other than on the 1480 band. We're very lucky actually, the transmitter's still going. God knows what's happened to that mast, but it must be waving around like a fishing line of a marlin. I'm going to get the compass going for you again, actually. I omitted to write it down last time. We're receiving on frequency 2182, as we did before, and we're endeavouring to put the anchor down. Yes, a bit frightened actually down here that the side of the holes are going to cave in. But of course, it's a pretty solid tip, I tell you. We're all hoping it's a solid tip anyway. I wouldn't mind to change this damn weather forecast now, actually. Situation around the tree. This is no time for choking. There we've gone, we've hit once. We're going back onto the rocks now. I'll repeat that. We're receiving on frequency 2182. We have on the ground near the entrance to the Wangapara Harbour. The Wangapara Harbour on Great Barrier Island. We have gone aground on the entrance to Wangapara Harbour on Great Barrier Island. We're hitting continuously now. I don't know how long I can stay with you. There we've gone again. That was rather bad, actually. We've gone aground on the Wangapara. There. Abandon ship. Abandon ship. I'm turning the microphone up now. Abandon ship. Abandon ship. The siren has gone. We are abandoning ship. The siren has gone. We are abandoning ship. The rocks are with us from here. I've got to go now. I'll turn the microphone up loud. I hope the transmitter holds out. We are abandoning ship. Our position is in the wrong of Pearl Harbor. I love you, Mum and Dad.
The Station of the Stars. RTI.
And we actually, I can't remember what year that was when Radio Iraqi hit the rocks. We'll have to look it up for you, mate. I cannot remember. It was in the 70s, I know that, but I can't remember the exact year. But such is life, such is life. The great thing was all the broadcast and crew of the Kiri all got off safely, and the fun thing was that eventually Radio Iraqi became an onshore radio station. They were licensed, and what a fabulous thing. And Martin's finally managed to find us. Well, eureka for that. Is Janet there?
Yes.
Hello, Janet! Janet! Janet!
Yeah.
Janet! Oh,
can you hear me?
We can hear you beautifully, and
That's great.
And I'm going to let the boys, because I've met your difficult daughter. And you know, I know the sort of little disparaging things that she does. Yeah, yes, I do. And I can't tell you, because you know, I think Dave and Henry should have a little input into this to find out more about Rachel. And I think we'll let Henry go first, because he's met her as well, and he's worked with her. But, you know, he doesn't really know the history of Rach. So, Henry, what would you love to ask Rachel's mum?
Gee, Eric, why do you do this? Firstly, I've known Rach for 23 years, Rach, do you reckon?
Yeah, about
Since the early 90s, whatever the hell that was. Janet, I have never met you, so it's nice to meet you now. I don't know. I mean, how do you ask someone's mother about their daughter unless you're wanting to marry their daughter? And oh, look.
I'll tell you what, I'll help you, Henry. Henry.
Yeah, okay.
I'll help you, Henry. So Janet, can you think of the biggest thing that Rachel did as a youngster that got her into the biggest amount of trouble, and what was it?
Well, she was very, very sassy. She was always answering back.
Oh.
And she was one time, she was sitting in the back of the car, and she asked me if I could do something, and I said no. And she said why, and I said because I said so. You know how you do. And so then she sat back in the back seat and thought about it a bit. And she said, "I know what you're going to say. You're going to say, I'm an adult and you're a child, and while you live in my home, you will do as I say. But never forget that I am entitled to my opinion." She was 4 years old.
Yes, and I, you know what, Janet, I'm not surprised at all. Because Rachel's never been shy of a word, and you know, connecting with that is the fact that Rach worked on she worked on television and also on the stage as a child, and I'm not surprised at anything you say, because she obviously was naturally inclined to be watched and listened to, Janet.
Oh, yes, you couldn't possibly ignore her. When she was a tiny baby, I couldn't do anything. I did everything with my right hand because I had her dangling over my left shoulder, holding her ankles. I couldn't put her down.
Dave, one from you.
Well, I was just interested to know really what Rachel was like as a child. Did you know that she was going to become a performer?
I did. She went with one of my pupils early. I used to teach Dalcroze Eurythmics, and we used to do all these dramatised fairy tales and things. And we did the Empress Nightingale. And if you know the story of the Empress Nightingale, he falls in love with the clockwork nightingale in a cage. And Rachel was about 3, and she was dressed up and put in this great big cage and told to flap her wings every time there was music. And so she did. And the rest is...
I should be in a cage now.
Rach, it's okay. Rach, we've got plenty of time left, and I have another question for her, for Janet. Janet, I was very lucky with my little uns. They were quite good, and well behaved until they got about 7 or 8 years old. Then my son will openly admit to anybody now he would have disowned himself at that age for being a little monkey, and he had a habit of being able to break things without trying. He didn't mean to do it. Did you ever have any issues with Rach sort of knocking the family valuables off the table and stuff like that? Did she break things?
She was very well coordinated, and she wasn't clumsy. She'd do things, if she wanted to sort of get up. I know she cut her hair, something like that.
Cut her hair?
Cut it. I was trying to grow her hair, and she cut the fringe off with roots.
But did she ever break anything in defiance of you?
No, she didn't. She was great. She was very biddable. She was great.
I was a good girl, I was.
Can I give you a bit of background about Rach? When I was a young woman, I was doing quite a lot of theatricals, and I played the role of Annie Sullivan in The Miracle Worker. Now, if you've ever seen that beautiful role immortalised by Anne Bancroft, you will know there's quite a bit of violence between Annie Sullivan and Helen Keller.
Mm-hmm.
And there was all this fighting, and I had to fall off the stage every night and pick myself up, and I was thinking, and I was covered in bruises. And so anyway, the season finished, and a couple of months later, or about a month later, I went to the doctor and found I was pregnant. And I was pregnant with Rachel. So, of course, then every time she did something bad, I thought, oh, I ruined you when you were in the womb. This is so bad.
And what was she like at school then?
She was very bright. She was very bright. And she, the Rachel could do better always.
Yeah.
But if she applied herself, she was very, very clever.
And how much?
Bright.
And how much has Rachel sent you in by bank transfer to do this conversation with us?
Nothing.
Oh, nothing. Nothing. I'm very, very happy to help her any way I can.
So moving along, she becomes a teenager. She wants to drive a car. Did you have to teach her?
Yes. No.
What
Her
happened?
father taught her, I think. Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
I was. Mum was living in Melbourne, and I had moved to Adelaide to finish school, and I was living with Dad when I drove. So you'd have to get Dad on the line to find out about that.
Oh, yeah, get Dad on the line. That'd be cool.
And have you ever driven with her, Janet?
Yes. Oh, heavens, yes.
Is she? What's she like as a driver?
Fantastic. Right.
Oh, for goodness' sake!
Very and she's also an excellent back seat driver.
Really? How do you mean, Janet? What does she do?
Oh, this is the lane, you know. See that white line? You're supposed to be on the left of it, you know, all that sort of thing.
So are you telling me she's a bit of a control freak in the back of the car?
Oh, yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Ah.
In the passenger seat, she's a bit.
And what hobbies did she have as a child?
She mostly she sort of started to play the violin. But she was mostly interested in acting and singing and dancing, and we went to ballet for a few years. And she was always interested in the performing arts.
Mm-hmm. And did she have any sort of? Did she have any sort of strange? Did she have any sort of strange toys?
Oh, no, no.
Stop it! You know, was she into dolls or was she into Meccano? What was she?
Oh, she was into dolls. She loved dolls.
Really?
She loved dolls. She loved Barbie.
A Barbie?
She was a girly girl.
Girly girl?
Mm.
I was.
Barbie dolls.
I find that really hard to believe.
I can't swallow it.
I know.
Rachel, do you find it very strange being talked about in a third-person kind of way?
I'm digging it.
Of course.
It's all positive buzz, man. I'm all over this. This is great.
She's gone back into acting mode, Henry. Any publicity's good publicity. Doesn't matter what it is, whether it's negative or positive. So then, you know, as she was growing up, Janet, did her way of being your daughter change at all?
Well, she changed a lot. Our relationship changed a lot when she started professional acting. Because she was in Sound of Music in Melbourne for a start, and that season went 6 months, 4 shows a week. And there's a sort of way that the sort of Julie and Anthony people saying what a lovely little girl she was and how fantastic. And then she'd come home, and I'd say, do your homework, clean your room, you got to go to school. And I was just not a very nice person to her. Or she
Janet, was that very difficult for you? Because you had a child who was on porridge, as it's called in the UK, where I'm from, even though I'm from Ireland, cell block H, all that sort of stuff on Neighbours international television, because Neighbours wasn't just Australia located, it was all over the world. Did you find it difficult to deal with such a young child being really quite successful?
I didn't really. Because she was going to be successful at this, no matter what I said. So I was 100% behind her. When she did Cell Block H and Neighbours and the Sullivans and those sort of things, I was actually in the UK. And she had to get herself up in the morning and get the taxi came and picked her up at 5 o'clock and took her to wherever they were ever filming. And I really missed out.
Were you watching your daughter from the UK on television?
No. It was pre-recorded, way pre-recorded. But I missed out on that delightful bit. But I was just happy that she was successful and happy.
Mm. Did anybody know you as, were you Rachel's mum, or as in the way some people. They talk about them on the telly and the radio, Janet, where they go, that's Rachel's mum. Never Janet, it was Rachel's mum.
I was always Rachel's mum, not Janet. And some people, particularly middle-aged male actors, are disparaging of stage mothers.
Really?
Well-deserved in some cases, but not in mine. And I was sort of, I'm not going to push her, and she just, if she wanted to do it, she did it. If she didn't want to do it, she didn't do it.
Right.
And I didn't sort of stand in the things and say, sing out.
It's understandable that mothers of children who are in the media or on stage or whatever are going to get blamed for something, like pushing them into the media, that kind of thing. But it sounds like you never did. And just to, Rachel's father, who is a musician, I do believe, it was in the blood, was it not?
Yes. We're a creative family. Her brother's very talented, Phil. Phil is he's really talented as well. Yeah.
So
we're lucky.
What's your entertainment background then, Janet? Do you play instruments, sing, what?
I sing, and I used to play the piano, and I used to teach dance. I lectured in dance at drama at one of the universities here, Flinders University. And and now I don't really though. I sing, but I sing a bit. But
So Janet, is it true then that when the parents are incredibly talented, by the time the gene pool gets down to the next generation, it's kind of gone down a bit? So you're better at singing and dancing than Rach is.
What a question!
No way. No way. You should see Rachel did Annie, and I was just couldn't believe that this was the fruit of my loins.
Janet, Henry and Sydney, what did you think in the early 90s when Rach went off to Japan?
I didn't know what she was going to do. But she was in Sydney and I was in Adelaide when there wasn't a lot I could do.
But did you
I didn't know.
Was that okay for you?
Yeah, well, she was... How old were you, Rach?
22.
22. Yeah, 22, you can't do a lot. And, I just sort of hoped that she'd be safe and she was quite unhappy for a while when she got there very homesick. So I supported her as best I could. In the end, I went over there and had a look at what was about. And I was really,
that reminds me of a funny story. When Mum came to visit me in Japan, we were in an apartment, and it was just before the big Kobe earthquake, and we were in this apartment, and all of a sudden, the lights started to swing and the crockery started to rattle. And Mum came diving out of bed and said, "Earthquake!" And I said, "Oh." She said, "Get in the bath." And I said, "That's for a cyclone." In the doorway for an earthquake.
In the doorway.
She was peeking. That was a great trip, though, Mum. That was a great trip.
Dave, your turn, I think.
Yeah, where's Dave?
I'm still here. Don't worry. I'm just making lots of notes.
I like this. No, actually, I know what he's doing. He's writing down time references because out of this lot will become a jingle, and Rachel will hate it. But Dave's writing all the time codes down, so he, like you have on a video, so he knows which bits to go back to that he can nick and use.
That's all right. I love things that are about me. I love it.
That's really interesting. I didn't know you did that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I do. Dave does as well. So, Dave, over to you for a question. You haven't had a go yet.
Well, the immediate question comes to mind is, what's the most embarrassing thing that Rachel's done as far as you're concerned? What's the thing that's made you hold your head in your hands?
Because I'm so used to her, I've never held my head in my hands. Her decorum's very good, and she does stuff that when I'm not around. But she was. I was a bit concerned when she was in Japan about some of the people she was hanging out with.
Really?
And I, just because I didn't speak very much Japanese, and they didn't speak English, and I didn't really know what was going on. and you know, I was getting told stuff that I was fairly sure wasn't true. But I don't think she's never actually thoroughly embarrassed me.
Not once.
And, you know, if you're embarrassed,
she's.
I'll tell you what she did do.
Go on, tell us, Janet.
When she came over from Adelaide on the plane, and she'd been reading the paper, reading the Age on the plane, and she'd come across an advertisement for people to go and audition for the latest version of Sound of Music. So she came walking off the plane, and she walked up to me, and she didn't say hello, and she said, "I'm going to audition for this." And I said, "Oh, okay." So we went in, and we stood with about 1 million other people outside Her Majesty's Theatre in Melbourne, and for about 4 hours. And
you were hungover, if I recall.
I was hungover. We'd had a late night, and I was standing in Exhibition Street, clutching a can of soft drink as it was my last liquid love. And she came up to me and she said, "Would you take an interest?"
Yeah, that sounds like Rachel.
Yeah, does sound like Rachel.
Yeah, I was a bit embarrassed, but only for myself.
That turned out to be a pretty good. That turned out to be a pretty good cue, though. Because look what happened.
Look what happened.
Yeah, exactly. So, what would you change about Rachel then, Janet?
Not a thing.
Oh,
Eric, you ask such tough questions.
I mean, and if I was going to change her, I probably would be saying it on worldwide radio.
Reasonable.
Listen,
I'm going to get. If you don't mind, I'm going to get a little bit sooky for a minute. When Mum came to Japan, I was in my very first crippling episode from bipolar disorder and didn't know that was what I had. And for years, my mum watched me do insane things and without any plausible explanation as to why. And when I finally got my diagnosis, she said, "It's all going to be all right. Now you know what it is. You can get treatment." And I said, "Well, it is going to be all right." I was actually calling her from the hospital that I'd been admitted to. And I said, I'm terrified, Mum. Can you send me a photo of Granny and Papa, because I would like to keep them on the wall? And she did. She shot it straight to me. And she said, and when I got out of the hospital, it was the best day of my life. She said, "I love you and I'm proud of you."
Oh, isn't that nice?
And I've been well ever since.
You and I am.
Oh, Janet, I can only say a million thanks to you, because I think you're very brave to come on here in front of me. As Henry says, I've been practicing.
No, I'm not. I was going to thank you, Eric, when we were talking last night, because I should have thanked you for that fantastic show you did after my heart attack.
That's okay.
It was so useful. Such great advice from those people. And I want to thank you for that. That was great.
That, Janet, in my book, and in the book of all of us on the show and the station come to that. That's what we think radio's all about. It can be one person or 10 persons, and Rachel's been incredibly brave talking about bipolar on here and various forms of mental illness, which I know has actually helped a whole bunch of people, not in Australia but around the world. And you know, that's what we are, rebels on here. Rachel fits in beautifully, and you know, we understand what radio can really do to help people, and so I thank you for bringing the little sod into my life, and I also thank you for being very brave and coming on the radio, because I don't think you've done this before.
You talk about my favourite subject, my father and my kids.
Yeah. So Rachel, so Janet, have you ever done radio before? Silence. It's
So
golden.
there's back in the 70s. That's not radio. That's not radio. That's commercials.
That's commercials. Yeah, all right then. Okay, Janet, we're going to let you go, darling. God bless you so much.
Thank you very much for having me.
No, it's been...
It's lovely to meet you. You sound like your daughter, which is kind of compelling because I don't know who's talking.
We get that a lot.
You sound alike.
Right, we're going to say goodbye to you. Thank you so much again. We got a couple of bits to get squeezed in before the end of the show, which is right upon us. So we're going to love and leave you. Have a great weekend, Janet, and thank you so much again. Take care.
Bye, Mummy. I love you.
Bye, Mummy.
Darling, I love you too.
See you, Mum.
We'll be
See
back
you later.
after. We'll be back
See you,
after
Mum.
these short little thingamajiggies. What do they call them?
Inserts.
Yeah, I suppose it is really, isn't it? Yeah, inserts things. That's the ones I was looking for. Especially for Mitchell.
1, 2,
3. Wash your hands, your hands. It just takes 20 seconds. Wash your hands, your hands. It's for your own protection. No exceptions, no objections. You'll make such a nice impression. No infection if you only wash your hands. And you're done.
RTI.
Hello?
Hello.
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 Hello?
Hello.
Hello?
Hello.
Hello?
Is there anybody out there?
Can you hear me?
How are you doing?
I'm not just an ordinary voice.
Not just a film trailer voice.
I am.
A voiceover.
The Mind the Gap voice.
The X Factor voice.
The Impressionist voice. So great.
The Big Brother voice.
Speaking clock voice.
The newsreader voice.
The smart speaker voice.
The voice of the balls. The weakest link voice.
The cartoon voice.
The voice that says,
Press 1 for customer service.
And don't forget your change, especially notes.
and
Gordon's alive!
we are speaking as one.
To say.
To say.
To say,
Stay at home.
Protect the NHS.
Save lives.
and
RTI. Keep talking.
keep talking.
Keep talking.
Keep talking.
Keep talking.
Continue de parler.
बात करते रहिए.
Keep talking.
Keep talking.
Keep talking.
Keep talking.
Don't keep it to yourself.
And if others want to talk to you,
Listen.
We can all get through this.
if we stay at home.
Protect the NHS.
Save lives. And
Keep ruddy well talking. RTI.
Jesus, we've all got something.
Henry, your mic's open.
Oh, sorry.
Steve says.
Oh, no.
Steve said that there was a
In
bit.
trouble again.
I apologise. There was a bit of an echo on Janet's line, but I kept it going. I'm not fussed. Content is king. And Steve says the echo sounded like Rachel was repeating her mum, which is kind of true. And Mitchell says to Janet, "Thanks, Janet." So I passed on the message. With that, we have to say goodbye, everybody. So it's time for Dave. What are you up to at the weekend?
I don't know. I'm meeting up with JB this afternoon for coffee and discussions. So
you'll be talking about EVs and things.
yes. Oh, 28th of January 1968. The ship ran aground.
It was when, Dave?
In New Zealand. 28th of January 1968, and it was Derek King who was on air at the time.
Oh, it was earlier than I thought. Well, there you go. Amazing, isn't it? Mitchell,
Have a good weekend.
And you. Mitchell was listening to RTI on the wireless. I didn't know the live feed was back on. Of course it's on. Of course it's on. It's on. There's loads of people listening to it. So, but I like the way he said he was listening to RTI on the wireless. That makes me so happy. Rach, what about you?
I got to work, but I've quickly got a moment to do something. Can everybody go to Instagram and find a company called Let's Face It in Melbourne? My very dear friend Mel is making face masks, and it's absolutely taking off. They're beautiful, and you can have basically anything you want.
Lovely.
So if you go to Let's Face It on Instagram, that would be awesome.
Brilliant. Tim says, lovely show. Many thanks. Catch you later. And Henry, to round up.
Well, my main computer died, so and I have to build up a new computer instead of working in the wine industry. I'm just going to build a new computer tomorrow.
Oh, my word. Sounds great. We're really going to have to run because I really want to finish with this thing. This is what Johnny Walker said back in 1967. And for that, we thank him. See you soon, people. Take care. Bye-bye.
This is the story of man's fight for freedom. The beginning is in the past, the middle is now, the end is in the future. It is a story of sadness and of triumph. August the 14th, as disc jockeys Robbie Dale, Johnny Walker and Ross Brown leave Liverpool Street, London, spurred on toward the sea by the hundreds of cheering people. See them now as they stand on the tender. There are tears in their eyes as their families, their homes, and their loved ones are left behind. 3 o'clock on this Monday afternoon, and on 266, Big Lil is heard for the last time. Caroline is alone. These three men prepare for...